Alright, let's see what I come up with today. DCDS. Stay safe, kids. Stay chronic, isochronic. I take caffeine and creatine in the morning and I'm fine. But when I started to listen to isochronic tunes, then whoa man, I really thought I wouldn't be ready to become a father. But now I have 15 children. 15 children. And they are all, well, in my imagination. Because I have no girlfriend. But I would be a good dad. And that's what matters. Alright, so the idea is to talk about non-stop. And even if that implies that I'm retarded, because I will be talking about shit I come up with, and even my criticism might be very superficial and shallow, but I hope that's not the case. Last time I talked about, last thing I talked about was the 3 dimensions in physics, and I was going to talk about Oswald Spengler today, but I don't know where to start. I think I can start randomly and then see where to go from there. Okay, so I'm just going to start. Gothic cathedrals and Doric temples are mathematics in stone. Doubtless Pythagoras was the first in the classical culture to conceive numbers scientifically. You can see that Oswald Spengler was a real was a real ideas man. Was the first in the classical culture to conceive numbers scientifically as the principle of world order of comprehensible things, as a standard and as magnitude. But even before him, it had found expression as a number array of sensual material units. In the strict canon of a statue in the Doric order of columns, the Greek altar, one in all modes of interpretation by means of limits based on number. Consider, for example, the problem space representation in oil painting. A high mathematical endowment may, without any mathematical science whatsoever, come to fruition in full self-knowledge in technical spheres. What did he mean by this? In the presence of so powerful a number, since as that evidence, even in the Old Kingdom, in the dimensioning of pyramid temples and in the technique of building, water control and public administration, not mention the calendar, no one surely would maintain that the valueless arithmetic of arms belonging to the new empire represents the level of Egyptian mathematics. The Australian natives, oh yeah man, this is my favorite part, and it's just really in the beginning of the book. Alright, so listen up. The Australian natives, who rank intellectually as through primitives, possess a mathematical instinct, or what comes to the same thing, a power of thinking in numbers, which is not yet communicable by signs or words, that as regards the interpretation of pure space is far superior to that of the Greeks. Their discovery of a boomerang, man, this is okay. So if you don't know the background, the natives in Australia did came up with a boomerang, but it was a very much different boomerang than what we use here. And it's not the boomerang that we refer to in modern times. That kind of boomerang, the one that cycles in air and comes back to the person who throws it, that's an European invention. And the Australian boomerang was a hunting weapon. And it was basically a stick that rotates in air and was used to get birds. And even bats, I'm not sure which one. But the example, the video I've seen, like probably more than a year ago, was of Australian natives hunting down giant bats. Okay, so it's nice that I started here randomly. And okay, so Spengler doesn't know that, and it's funny, right? He doesn't know that. Okay, that discovery of the boomerang can only be attributed to their having a sure feeling for numbers of a class that we should refer to the higher geometry. Accordingly, we shall justify the adverb later. They possess an extraordinarily complicated ceremonial and, for expressing degrees of affinity, such fine shades of language as not even the higher cultures themselves can show. There is an analogy again between the Euclidean mathematic and the absence in the Greek of the mature Periclean age of any feeling either for ceremonial public life or for loneliness, loneliness, while the Baroque, differing sharply from the classical, presents us with a mathematics of spatial analysis, a quality of Versailles, I don't know how you should pronounce that, Versailles, yeah. And the state system resting on dynastic relations. It is a style of Versailles that comes out in the world of numbers, and the world of numbers includes something more than the science thereof. But this bear follows a fact of decisive importance, which has hitherto been hidden from the mathematicians themselves. Wow, man. I don't know why, but I expect bullshit right now. Okay. There is not and cannot be number as such. Man, why did I buy this book? How did I make that decision? Okay, there is not and cannot be number as such. There are several number worlds, as there are several cultures. We find an Indian, an Arabian, a classical, a Western type of mathematical thought, and corresponding with which, a type of number. I mean, it's like he's talking about the symbols themselves. He can't differentiate the symbols with the meaning, yes. And it's just becoming so ridiculous. A Western type of mathematical thought, and corresponding with which a type of number, each type fundamentally peculiar and unique, an expression of a specific world feeling, a symbol having a specific validity which is even capable of scientific definition. Let's see how long this is going. Alright, 7 minutes. Okay. The style of any mathematic. Okay, so next page. I feel like jumping a bit. I think this is such a waste of time. What? Well, by the way, my Kindle had a problem today, and I got a little scared, and I'm happy that it basically solved itself. And the problem is that I took it outside yesterday, and I don't think I damaged the surface, the display in any way, and I came home and I made yesterday's video, and it was late at night, but I did it anyway, and today I was about to do the same, and I had to consult my Kindle, and so it happens that the touch screen wasn't responsive. So I was like, fuck it, then, yeah. And I thought like an idiot that, okay, so maybe if I just plug it in my computer, it will be fixed, and it didn't work. And if you just press the power button for like 5 seconds, it asks about a reboot, a power off, and I believe to turn off the screen. But since the screen is not responsive, I can't choose neither. Okay, I can't choose either. Yeah, and what I had to do was to hold the button for, I don't know, some autistic number like 30 seconds, and then it rebooted. Yeah. But I don't know. This is a bad sign, right? So if you want to have a good time, maybe Kindle is not the best. So I hope I help someone out there. I'm really dependent on this, by the way. I have many books already here. Okay. Okay, so he talks about Plato instead of Socrates, and that's another bad habit. He talks about theology as dogmatic. He talks about Reformation and the Counter-Reformation. And he says the Counter-Reformation movement was decentralized deism. He talks about Descartes and Pascal. Okay. Let's see what else. I've seen some of his insights into society, and I'm glad to say that if Oswald Spengler is a popular example of a pessimist, then I'm glad to say that I'm an optimist, because wow, the amount of mistakes he's doing here is unbelievable. Okay, let's go here. Part 6. 1 hour and 18 minutes left in chapter, and this is only 7% into the book. So just, I don't know what he's going to say, just read it. The Greek mathematics as a science of perceivable magnitudes deliberately confines itself to facts of a comprehensible of a comprehensibly present. Wow, weird syntax. Okay, and limits its research and their validity to veneer and the small as compared with this impeccable consistency. The position of the Western mathematics is seen to be practically somewhat illogical. There is only since the discovery of non-Euclidean geometry that fact has been really recognized. Numbers are images of a perfectly decentralized understanding or pure thought and contain their abstract validity within themselves. Their exact application to the actuality of conscious experience is therefore a problem in itself, a problem which is always being posed anew and never solved, and the congruence of mathematical system with empirical observation is at present anything but self-evident. Although the lay ideas found in Schopenhauer is that mathematics rests upon the direct evidence of the senses. Euclidean geometry, superficially identical though it is with the popular geometry of all ages, is only in agreement with the phenomenal world approximately and within very narrow limits. In fact, the limits of a drawing board extend these limits and what becomes, for instance, of Euclidean parallels? We meet at the line of the horizon, a simple fact upon which all our art perspective is grounded. Now, it is unpardonable that Kant, a Western thinker, oh, good, how convenient, he's talking about Kant. Alright, a Western thinker should have evaded the mathematics of distance and appealed to a set of figure examples that their mere pettiness excludes from treatment by the specifically Western infinitesimal methods. But Euclid, as a thinker of the classical age, was entirely consistent with its spirit when he refrained from proving the phenomenal truth of his axioms by referring to, say, the triangle formed by an observer and two infinitely distant fixed stars. This can either be drawn for intuitively apprehended, and his feeling was precisely the feeling which shrank from the irrationals, which did not dare to give nothingness a value as zero. And even in the contemplation of cosmic relations, shut its eyes to the infinite and held to its symbol of proportion. Right. What else? Seems like a good old rant, right? You don't see where the author is going. He's making commentaries. You know he's a pessimist. You know he's probably going to avoid understanding stuff. Okay, so maybe that's enough for Oswald Spengler for today. Right, what about the works of George Berkeley? Nice idea, right? The only problem is that those are really extensive. Okay, so what about some new stuff? Some easy to understand stuff. What about that? Okay, I can give you some insight into someone I like, and I like this person without really going through his books, and that person is Wittgenstein, right? Ludwig Wittgenstein. And one thing after the other strikes me with a pleasure, sensation, and these things are facts, historical facts. One of them is that Ludwig Wittgenstein is a war hero. He is a saint. He inherited, I believe, the biggest. I don't think it's the biggest, but probably one of those. I don't know if it's wealth or like property, but he basically had a lot of money that was given to him by his family at some point, and his brothers and sisters, and the idea that I have in my mind, the twisted memory, is that people in his family were suicides, right? And the term suicide is that someone who hasn't committed suicide yet and is expected to do so. And yeah, so that's a course of action that implies that these people were I don't know, I have a term for this, you guys may not understand, and the term is spiritually poor. They had a lot of resources, but they felt like poor people, right? And they felt like extremely poor people, enough to kill themselves. Okay, that's what spiritually poor means. So he gave that up, gave it to charity. Then he went to war, and then he went to meet and study with Bertrand Russell, and I hate that guy, man. I really hate him, and he's a fake, he's a pacifist, and I do like people who are, formal and stuff. People who like logic are, interesting to me. But at some point, I have to differentiate myself, right? So let's just open that book. His main book, his only book actually, is called Tractatus. It's Tractatus Logicus Philosophicus, if I may say so. That's from Latin, by the way. Let's go on. Wow, man, seems I'm like 18% into this book, so I have to go to the beginning again. Right, Mr. Wittgenstein Tractatus Logicus Philosophicus, whether or not it prove to give the ultimate truth on the matters with which it deals, certainly deserves by its breadth and scope and profundity to be considered an important event in the philosophical world. And that's what Bertrand Russell is saying about the book. I don't want to read this. Must be a lot of bullshit in here. Wow, man, Russell just won't shut up. When is the book starting? Alright, so that's why I was 18% into the book, because Russell just won't shut up. Okay, so Russell seems to make a big comment on the book, and this comment takes 11% of the book. The comment was made in May 1922, after the First World War, and I can just move on to the preface now, finally. Come on. Alright, so there's the device. This device is not good, man. It's getting slow, it's getting unresponsive. Anyway, preface: this book will perhaps only be understood by those who have themselves already thought the thoughts which are expressed in it, or similar thoughts. It is therefore not a textbook. Its object would be attained if there were one person who read it with understanding and to whom it afforded pleasure. The book deals with the problems of philosophy and shows, as I believe, that the method of formulating these problems rests on the misunderstanding of the logic of our language. Its whole meaning could be summed up somewhat as follows: what can be said at all can be said clearly, and whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. Okay, I understand this, but I think you guys might not understand, because what meaning do you take from those words themselves, without any context? The words are again, what can be said at all can be said clearly, and whereof one cannot speak, thereof one must be silent. For example, I've seen uses of this, and those are like imagine people who criticize logic. Logic itself can be criticized by people, and since language is built on logic, the only way you can build language is with logic. And actually, logic, the etymology of logic used to be the same as language. It used to be logos, yeah. So you either believe in language or not, and if you don't believe in language, you are silent. That's the point of this, and I hope you got it. So I'll just move on the book. Will thereof draw a limit to thinking, or rather not to thinking, but to the expression of thoughts. For in order to draw a limit to thinking, we should have to be able to think both sides of this limit. We should thereof have to be able to think what cannot be thought. The limit can therefore only be drawn in language, and what lies on the other side of the limit will be simply nonsense. How far my efforts agree with those of other philosophers, I will not decide. Indeed, what I have here written makes no claim to novelty in points of detail, and therefore I give no sources, because it is indifferent to me whether what I had thought has already been thought before me by another. I will only mention that to the great works of Frege and the writings of my friend Bertrand Russell, I owe in large measure the stimulation of my thoughts. So you can see here that Wittgenstein was talking in a friendly manner about Russell, and this changed later. I can prove it, and it's easy to find on the internet. So I think that's a priority. I just look it up. Prioritize. Let's bury Bertrand Russell for good. Russell and Wittgenstein. By the way, I think I will be using their picture. their picture together. Mm-hmm. Wittgenstein was baptized as an infant by a Catholic priest, by the way. He was a very noble man, in my mind, in my soul. And, oh man, it's hard to find the letter that I'm looking for. Okay, so maybe it's like Wittgenstein letter to Rousseau. And in this letter, Wittgenstein is basically saying, I don't want to be your friend anymore. It's a rare letter. So maybe not today. Okay, Wittgenstein letter to Rousseau. Okay, Wittgenstein fight. Okay, so there is something like unpublished correspondence between Rousseau and Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein's letters to Rousseau. Alright, let's find this. Oh man, I'm making a lot of space in my recording today, so maybe I should go beyond 20 minutes. Okay, so dear Rousseau, I have not heard anything more from you for a long time, and I have also not written, because there was little that was new, and also because I have been rather unwell. The work and all the excitement have got my nerves completely down, and I'm often afraid that I shall not be able to hold out until the holidays. A short time ago I received the Meaning of Meaning. Doubtless it has been sent to you too. Is it not a miserable book? No. Philosophy, after all, is not as easy as that, but it does show how easy it is to write a big book. The worst thing is the introduction by Professor Polsky. It seems like small talk, right? I have rarely read anything so stupid. I'm a bit curious about Richie's book, which he means to send me. So Ogden writes, Richie was a nice person and I should be happy to hear from him. What the fuck am I reading? Now it is for you to write me another letter telling me how things are going, for you and yours, and what your little boy is doing. Is he already a keen student of logic? Warmest greetings to you, message also to your wife. Yeah. And the letter is written in German. Okay, Wittgenstein feud. Maybe this will be the right. Seems hard to find this. Did Wittgenstein threaten Popper over red hot vodka in Cambridge 55 years ago? Wow. Alright, who cares? So let's just go on and read the book, right? The world is everything that is the case. This is the first sentence. And he says a number before each sentence. And let's move on. The world is the totality of facts, not of things. And okay, so he means universe by world. And the universe is determined by the facts, and by this being all the facts. For the totality of facts determines how both what is the case and also all that is not the case. Seems a little redundant. The facts in logical space are the world. The world divides into facts. Anyone can either be the case or not be the case. And everything else remains the same. What is the case? The fact is the existence of atomic facts. An atomic fact is a combination of objects, entities, things. Seems a little dense, right? It is essential to a thing, but it can be a constituent part of an atomic fact. In logic, nothing is accidental. If a thing can occur in an atomic fact, the possibility of that atomic fact must already be prejudged in the thing. It would, so to speak, appear as an incident. As an accident. into a thing that could exist alone on its own account. Subsequently, a state of affairs could be made to fit. If things can occur in atomic facts, this possibility must already lie in them. Moving on. Come on, device. Use slow device. Alright. The decimal figures, so this is a note. I'll just skip that. Oh. Okay, so last one. If things can occur in atomic facts, this possibility must already lie in them. Right, so the next part is a logical entity cannot be merely possible. Logic treats of everything that is a possibility, and all possibilities are its facts. Just as we cannot think of spatial objects at all apart from space, or temporal objects apart from time, so we cannot think of any object apart from the possibility of its connection with other things. If we can think of an object in the context of an atomic fact, I cannot think of it apart from the possibility of its context. The thing is independent, and so far as it can occur in no possible circumstance, but this form of independence is a form of connection with the atomic fact, a form of dependence. It is impossible for words to occur in two different ways alone and in the proposition. If I know an object, then I also know all the possibilities of its occurrence in atomic facts. Every such possibility must lie in the nature of the object. A new possibility cannot subsequently be found. In order to know an object, I must know not its external, but all its internal qualities. If all objects are given, then thereby are all possible atomic facts also given. Everything is as it were in a space of possible atomic facts. I can think of this space as empty, but not of a thing without this space. A spatial object must lie in infinite space. A point in space is a place for an argument. A speck in a visual field need not be red, but it must have a color. It has, so to speak, a color space round it. A tone must have a pitch, the object of a sense to touch, a hardness. Objects contain the possibility of all states of affairs. The possibility of its occurrence in atomic facts is the form of the object. The object is simple. Every statement about complexes can be analyzed into a statement about their constituent parts, and into those propositions which completely describes the complexes. Objects form the substance of the world, therefore they cannot be compound. If the world had no substance, then whether a proposition had sense would depend on whether, come on, Kindle, let's move on whether another proposition was true. It would then be possible to form a picture of the world, true or false. And that's that's sentential logic. You know, you can compare Wittgenstein with other people, and you see that he cares about the consistency of what is said. Moving on, it is clear that, however different from the real one, an imagined world must have something in form in common with the real world. This fixed form consists of the objects. The substance of the world can only determine a form and not any material properties, but these are first presented by the propositions, first formed by the configuration of the objects. Roughly speaking, objects are colorless. Two objects of the same logical form are, apart from their external properties, only differentiated from one another in that they are different. Either a thing has properties which no other has, and then one can distinguish it straight away from the others by description and refer to it, or on the other hand, there are several things which have the totality of the properties in common, and then it is quite impossible to point to any one of them. For if a thing is not distinguished by anything, I cannot distinguish it, for otherwise it would be distinguished. Substance is what exists independently of what is the case. It is form and content. Space, time, and color are forms of objects. Only if there are objects can there be a fixed form of the world. The fixed, the existent, and the object are one. The object is the fixed, the existent. The configuration is the change, the variable. The configuration of the objects forms the atomic fact. In the atomic fact, objects hang one in another like the members of a chain. In the atomic fact, the objects are combined in a definite way. The way in which objects hang together in the atomic fact is the structure of the atomic fact. The form is the possibility of a structure. The structure of the fact consists of the structures of the atomic facts. The totality of existent atomic facts is the world. The totality of existent atomic facts also determines which atomic facts do not exist. The existence and non-existence of atomic facts is the reality. And the existence of atomic facts we also call a positive fact, where non-existence a negative fact. Atomic facts are independent of one another. From existence or non-existence of an atomic fact, we cannot infer the existence or non-existence of another. The total reality is the world. I keep saying that. We make to ourselves pictures of facts. The picture presents the facts in logical space, the existence and non-existence of atomic facts. The picture is the model of reality. To the objects corresponding the picture, the elements of the picture. The elements of the picture stand in the picture for the objects. The picture consists in the fact that its elements are combined with one another in a definite way. The picture is a fact. The elements of the picture are combined with one another in a definite way. Represents the former one that goes like the picture consists in other fact. Now he's not using he's using that the elements of a picture combined with one another in a definite way represents that the things are so combined with one another. This connection of elements of a picture, come on Kindle, oh man, you're so slow, you can't. It is called its structure. The possibility of its structure is called the formal representation of a picture. The formal representation is the possibility that things are combined with one another as are the elements of a picture. Thus, the picture is linked with reality, it reaches up to it. It is like a scale applied to reality. Only the outermost point of the dividing lines touch the object to be measured. According to this view, the representing relation which makes it a picture also belongs to the picture. The representing relation consists of the coordinations of the elements of a picture and the things. These coordinations are, as it were, the feelers. Okay, so check this word. He uses the word feelers, as in something that feels. As it were, the feelers of its elements, which is not filler, it's feeler, as in the verb to feel. Sorry, I think I'm not pronouncing that correctly. To feel, and to feel an emotion, and uses the word feel here. As it were, the feelers, okay, of its elements with which the picture touches reality. In order to be a picture of fact, a fact must have something in common with what it pictures. In the picture and the pictured, I hope you got that. There must be something identical in order that the one can be a picture of the other at all. So you can see that the syntax is kind of probably old here. In the picture and the pictured, with a D, there must be something identical in order that the one can be a picture and the other can be a picture of the other at all. What the picture must have in common with the pictured, with reality, in order to be able to represent it after its manner, rightly or falsely, is its form of representation. The picture can represent every reality whose form it has. The spatial picture, everything spatial, the colored, everything colored, etc. The picture, however, cannot represent its form of representation. It shows it forth. The picture represents its object from without its standpoint is its form of representation. Therefore, the picture represents its object rightly or falsely. But the picture cannot place itself outside of its form of representation. Whatever picture, whatever form must have in common with reality in order to be able to represent it at all, rightly or falsely, is the logical form. That is the form of reality. If the form of representation is a logical form, then the picture is called a logical picture. Every picture is also a logical picture. On the other hand, for example, not every picture is a spatial. The logical picture can depict the world. The picture has a logical form of representation in common with what it pictures. The picture depicts reality by representing a possibility of existence and non-existence of atomic facts. The picture represents a possible state of affairs in logical space. The picture contains the possibility of a state of affairs which it represents. The picture agrees with reality or not, it is right or wrong, true or false. The picture represents what it represents, independently of its truth or falsehood, through the form of representation. What the picture represents is its sense. In the agreement or disagreement of its sense with reality, its truth or falsity consists. In order to discover whether the picture is true or false, we must compare it with reality. It cannot be discovered from the picture alone whether it is true or false. There is no picture which is a priori true. The logical picture of a fact is a thought. An atomic fact is thinkable, means we can imagine. The totality of true thought is a picture. Come on, Kindle. Come on. the picture of the world. Some trouble out there. Thought contains the possibility of a state of affairs which it thinks. What is thinkable is also possible. We cannot think anything unlogical, for otherwise we should have to think unlogically. It used to be said that God could create everything except what was contrary to the laws of logic. The truth is, we could not say of an unlogical world how it would look. To present in language anything which contradicts logic is as impossible as in geometry to present by its coordinates a figure which contradicts the laws of space, or to give the coordinates of a point which does not exist. We could present spatially an atomic fact which contradicted the laws of physics, but not one which contradicted the laws of geometry. As in, an a priori true thought would be one whose possibility guaranteed its truth. We could only know a priori that a thought is true if its truth was to be recognized from the thought itself, without an object of comparison. In a proposition, the thought is expressed perceptibly through the senses. We use the sensibly perceptible sign, sound, or written sign, etc., of the proposition as a projection of a possible state of affairs. The method of projection is thinking of the sense of a proposition. The sign through which we express the thought I call the propositional sign. Let me see just how long this gets. Yep, it seems to be very, 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 very long. He's mostly talking about propositional logic. It's teaching you how to think, how to speak the truth, how to be consistent, how to not contradict yourself. Contradiction. Yeah, it's it seems I have a whole book ahead yet. I should probably finish it before going on here. Maybe I should just read something about Wittgenstein on the internet instead, because the internet is much easier and fun. Okay, Ludwig Joseph Johann Wittgenstein, born 26 April 1889 and died 29 April 1951, was an Austrian-British philosopher who worked primarily in logic, the philosophy of mathematics, the philosophy of mind, and the philosophy of language. From 1929 to 1947, Wittgenstein taught at the University of Cambridge. During his lifetime, he published just one slim book, the 75-page Tractatus Logico Philosophicus, 1921, one article, one book review, and a children's dictionary. His voluminous manuscripts were edited and published posthumously as titled Philosophical Investigations, which appeared as a book in 1953, 2 years after his death, and has since come to be recognized as one of the most important works of philosophy in the 20th century. His teacher, oh come on man, don't make sure he's not, Rousseau is not his teacher. Okay, so born in Vienna into one of Europe's richest families, he inherited a large fortune from his father in 1913. He initially made some donations to artists and writers, and then in a period of severe personal depression after the First World War, he then gave away his entire fortune to his brothers and sisters. 3 of his brothers committed suicide, with Wittgenstein contemplating it too. He left academia several times, serving as an officer on the front line during World War I, where he was decorated a number of times for his courage, teaching schools in remote Austrian villages where he encountered controversy for hitting children when they made mistakes in mathematics. And working as a hospital porter during World War II in London, where he told patients not to take the drugs they were prescribed, while largely managing to keep secret the fact that he was one of the world's most famous philosophers. He described philosophy as the only work that gives me real satisfaction. Wow, man, this guy is a saint, right? He fought in World War I, and then he was humble enough to teach children in remote Austrian villages, and then he started to work at a hospital in World War II in London, and yeah, it's just amazing. He gave away his fortune. His philosophy is often divided into an early period, exemplified by the Tractatus, and a later period articulating the philosophical investigations. The early Wittgenstein was concerned with the logical relationship between propositions and the world, and believed that by providing an account of the logic underlying the relationship, he had solved all philosophical problems. The later Wittgenstein rejected many of the assumptions of the Tractatus, arguing that the meaning of words is best understood as their use within a given language game. So yeah, he has this word which is called language game, as if a language game, which in German is Sprachspiel, is a philosophical concept developed by Ludwig Wittgenstein and Friedrich Waismann, referring to simple examples of language use and the actions into which the language is woven. Right. Nice. And the first part of the Wikipedia article is background, and talks about Carl Wittgenstein, who was one of the richest men in Europe. Wittgenstein had an influence of Otto Weininger. Some people might not know who this is. While a student at the Realschule, Wittgenstein was influenced by Austrian philosopher Otto Weininger's 1903 book Geschlechter und Charakter, Sex and Character. Weininger, 1980-1903, who was also Jewish, argued that the concepts male and female exist only as platonic forms, that Jews tend to embody the platonic femininity. Whereas men are basically rational, women operate only at the level of their emotions and sexual organs. Wow, man, this guy is an asshole, right? Jews, Weininger argued, are similar, saturated with femininity, with no sense of right and wrong and no soul. If you don't know what soul means mind. Okay, so he's saying that women had no mind. Weininger argues that man must choose between his masculine and feminine sides, consciousness and unconsciousness, platonic love and sexuality. Yeah, I don't like this guy. Okay, the next part is Jewish background and Hitler. Okay, so let's skip that. Let's skip all the drama and go straight for 1906 and 1913 university. Engineering at Berlin in Manchester. Arrival at Cambridge. Cambridge Moral Sciences Club and Apostles. Sexual orientation relationship with David Pinkstead. This must be some dramatic, some German stuff. 1913-1920, World War I at the Tractatus. 1920-1928, teaching the Tractatus, Hans Wittgenstein. And, right, the Vienna Circle. 1929-1941, Fellowship at Cambridge, PhD and Fellowship, Anschluss from 1936 to 1937, Wittgenstein lived again in Norway. Professor of Philosophy, World War II and Guy's Oster. 1947-1951, final years. Death is not an event in life. We do not live to experience death. If we take eternity to mean not infinite temporal duration but timelessness, then eternal life belongs to those who live in the present. Our life has no end in the way in which our visual field has no limits. Death. Then 1953, publication of Philosophical Investigations. Okay, then legacy, interpreters. This must be very interesting. Interpreters. Since Wittgenstein's death, scholarly interpretations of his philosophy have differed. Scholars have differed on the continuity between early and late Wittgenstein, that is, the difference between his views expressed in the Tractatus and those in Philosophical Investigations, with some seeing the two as darkly disparate and others stressing the gradual transition between the two works through analysis of Wittgenstein's and published papers. One significant debate in Wittgenstein scholarship concerns the work of interpreters who are referred to under the banner of New Wittgenstein School, such as Cora Diamond, Alice Crary, and James F. Conant. While the Tractatus, particularly in its conclusion, seems paradoxical and self-undermining, New Wittgenstein scholars advance a therapeutic understanding of Wittgenstein's work, an understanding of Wittgenstein as aspiring not to advance metaphysical theories, but rather help us work ourselves out of confusions we become entangled in when philosophizing. To support this goal, the New Wittgenstein scholars propose a reading of the Tractatus as plain nonsense. I don't think that's a good idea. What a bunch of idiots. Again, it does not attempt to convey a substantive philosophical project, but instead simply tries to push the reader to abandon philosophical speculation. Wow, that's not the case, man. And the therapeutic approach traces its roots to the philosophical work of John Wisdom, yeah. And the review of a blue book written by O.S. Koch Balsma. A therapeutic approach is not without critics. Hans Johann Glock argues that a plain nonsense reading of a Tractatus is at odds with external evidence, writings, and conversations in which Wittgenstein states that the Tractatus is committed to the idea of ineffable insight. Nice argument. So some people really think that Wittgenstein wrote Tractatus in a way that I don't think if the word tautology is right here, but in a very self-consistent way. That's what I think of the book from what I've read so far. Okay, show. So could I call it a day now? I think we had a lot of fun today already, right? Okay, so that's it for today, folks. Have a good time, study hard, and be happy.